Alright, so today's skating is not even fixing it, so I'm just kind of feeling, kind of like I've been hit by a truck, honestly. Um, I woke up kind of upset this morning. Taz has this little spot, it's like this big, that's kind of on his chest, around it, like his ribs, um, that I feel like needs to be checked out. It's been there for a while and has needed to be checked out, but I don't think it's getting any bigger. However, it's still there. Um, so today I've spent um, a decent amount of time just crying on myself because, because, my natural instinct is to catastrophize everything. So, how many ways can this possibly go wrong? Or I have failed him? And it's like, okay, he is due to go to the vet, right? And the way I have been making this work the past few years has been when we got Gidget back in 2017. She ended up getting into a bunch of fire ants, and was she was all scabby and she was itching all the time. And since I think she was like 3 or 4 months old when she got into the fire ants, because it was Alabama and the yard was basically a big sand pit. So, they couldn't give her a bunch of things because she was still too young. So we kind of had to bide our time with the itching and the. She went to the vet several times for it. She had like shampoos and she hated baths. And there was this whole ordeal. But because we had to go to the vet so much, we ended up with a care credit card, right? And so it's in my name, so it came with me. And basically the way that I have been able to stay on top of any of the vet trips has been, one goes, and then I get it paid down, and then I take another one, and then, add to it and pay that down. And it's just kind of rotating that way, right? So, and yes, they're usually like 2 or 3 months late, if you will, which, we've had dogs in the past that have been way later than that and been okay, but still, it's just that I've been trying to stay consistent, especially because starting out, I had them on that Pro Heart injection for heartworms, which covers them for the whole year, but it's kind of expensive. So this is the first year for any of them that I've dropped that and gone back to like a monthly thing. But Taz was due back in June. It's now September. And I'm still working on paying that down enough to get him there, right? So naturally, my instinct is just to catastrophize everything. So, I'm automatically waking up this morning feeling like I've let him down and this could be like this big horrible thing. And, I'm not trying to borrow money or anything from anybody because, obviously that's not something that's been a good thing in my family, right? They love it when you need assistance, but they hold it over your head forever. And it's just that aggravation on everything. And I started this week with a couple videos that were pretty expressly frustrated at getting pulled into my parents' shit again, right? And of course, then my dad, God, it's like every time he does something to stop taking care of something, that's okay. He came off of his meds for 2 weeks. Then he had this brain surgery thing, and the next day has a stroke. So apparently the brain surgery itself was, because it like took a chunk out of his, the artery in his eye. That procedure is enough to increase the potential for strokes, right? But then also, he has all these other conditions, like he's on, like, I think she said, like 4 different blood pressure meds. And so, to just stop taking those, you put yourself at risk for things happening, right? So he took himself off the meds for 2 weeks, had the brain surgery, and the next day has a stroke. Is it surgery related? Is it med related? Who knows, right? It wasn't just one stroke, it was multiple strokes in both sides of his brain, right? So, I've talked about the aggravation on that end. And, one of the big things on that is, okay, my mom and I had an argument while we were waiting on him to get back from one of his procedures when he was in the ER the other day. I think he went to have an MRI done. And she said, well, I get why he's upset and he didn't ask for this and blah, blah, blah. It's like bullshit. It's like, stop doing that, because he did ask for this, because he's the one that chose to stop taking his meds for 2 weeks. And that was, in that time frame of the first several strokes that he had, because they said there were multiple on both sides of his brain, right? So he did. And then this time around, because he had another stroke apparently, he took himself off of his CPAP machine. He's got COPD and other issues on that end. So he hadn't been using that for like 2 weeks, and that only came up because when we were trying to get stuff together in case they had to stay overnight in hospital, my mom wanted to grab his CPAP machine because the last time they had wanted it. And she said it should be over there on the floor. And I looked and it wasn't there. It's like, you can come over here and look, but it is not here. And she's like, why wouldn't it be there? He uses that every day. It's like, oh, does he? Right? So we found out he apparently hadn't been using it for 2 weeks, which we found out when one of the doctors was in the room, I think. But there again, it's like, he chose to do that as well, right? And adding in that important piece where last year on his birthday, when the whole family got together to go out for lunch, he was being a miserable dick. And when my brother was trying to make him feel better about everything, he said, come on, cheer up, big guy, what's going on? Finally gets my dad to talk, and he says, I just really thought I'd be dead by now. So it's bullshit to say that he didn't ask for this. It's like he's kind of been begging for this because he's been so miserable with his own fucking existence for so long. And I've talked about many times on here about how I am confident that the only reason most of, like our parents or our grandparents, the reason they have been able to make it as long as they have was because they're literally sucking the life out of other people, right? So, like, when I started setting boundaries and pulling my energy back when my grandfather was still alive, it was, like, noticeable pretty quick that, he started, like, going in reverse and not doing so well, and it's like, that's interesting. And then, as I was talking to my brother about what I was noticing and he started doing the same thing, well, then it seemed to, like, kind of speed up the process in which my grandfather was going downhill. It's like, that's interesting. So then the less that we can allow our parents to have access to our energy as well, it's like, you can tell that it's not going so well for them these days, right? It's like, I don't know, but the biggest thing is I'm fucking over having to deal with these people, and feeling like they are entitled to my energy. I have expressed concern multiple times on the fact that I didn't want another dog, and because the dog that I knew that they were going to end up with was going to fall to, me to take care of, right? So we get this dog in the house that's like afraid of its own ass. I'm the one that is working on training with it because I can't, because I feel bad for the dog. The dog is not responsible for the bullshit that my parents are doing, right? Like, the dogs are not included in that. The dogs have always been like this separate thing, and at least I have my dogs because the family sucks. God, I've spent a whole bunch of time out here. Like, I went skating, and I got like 4 miles in. I was just not feeling it at all today. Normally, I at least feel better for having done it. It's like today, my head was just not in it, and it just kept going through all this aggravating bullshit. Because yesterday, the thing with the dog was, I took her on a walk with my dogs, as I've been doing, which, there again, is largely why she's warming up, is because she's starting to feel like part of the pack, right? So she's getting exercise with mine, and there's been a few days I haven't taken her. Like, if she's all over the place. She's skittish as hell. She's hard to catch. And basically, you have to get her to either get on the couch and, like, freeze, or go back to their bedroom and freeze. That's how you catch her. I can occasionally do it if something's blocking her path in the laundry room. I've had to crawl under the table to catch her before. It's not fun. But until anybody else is willing to work with her, that's literally all the work she's getting is when I'm working with her, right? So yesterday, and she gets really excited about the walks, but not to where she comes over to get the leash put on her. Like, when I'm walking my dogs out to the car, if I have to chase her before I catch her, sometimes I'll take my dogs out first, and most of the time I'll go back and get her, but there's been a couple times I haven't, and I feel like it's noticeable in her, based on how she reacts when we get back and all that stuff. Like, she doesn't like being left behind, right? So yesterday I walked my dogs out into the garage, and she's like running by the garage door. She doesn't want to be caught, but she wants to go. So it's like, whatever. So, so I'm trying to get my dogs out in the garage so I can take them, put them in the car, so I can come back and get her. And it's this big ass ordeal. When we get back, I said I'm going to leave her on the leash for a little while. I took her outside and tried to help her through the dog door, trying to get her where she's not pulling back for it, and have the leash in front of her and kind of encouraging her to go through the dog door, which is a pain in the ass in and of itself. She watches the other dog. She knows how you're supposed to do it. She's gone through it a couple times, but only when she's been pushed. And so it's like, all right, so at least this way I can at least catch her and kind of work with her on that and get her used to it. So she went out the dog door, went back in the dog door, and then I just left her on the leash for a while. A little bit later in the evening, my parents both went back to their room and were laying down, right? And it's like 7:30. So they weren't in bed, they were just in bed. Mom was laying on the heating pad or whatever. So since they were in there, and I don't remember what I was getting ready to do, but I figured I'm trying to get her to, with the forward movement thing, right? So rather than running away when it's time to go back to the bed, have her on the leash, and, she walks willingly when she's on the leash, but she's just skittish as hell when it comes to catching her to put her on the leash, but I figured since she's on the leash, I'm trying to get her to be less likely to run away from going to bed when she wants to go to bed. It's like, just go in there, damn it. So it's this whole frustrating ordeal. But anyway, so I take her back into my parents' room, and she gets on the bed real easy as soon as she gets in there. It's just a matter of getting down there and confidently herself. So she gets in there, and then my dad makes some comment about, well, you're a pretty good dog wrangler, and it's just immediately it pissed me off. And of course my mom chimes in with in agreement and all this stuff. It's like, the reason it pisses me off is because I didn't want the dog. I didn't want another dog to have to take care of. And I knew it was all going to fall on me. Anything that happens as far as this dog feeling at home is because I've been working with her. Right? The extent of what they will do is my mom will occasionally sit down on the couch and brush her, or my dad will sit and... See, this is an irritating thing too. I've talked about how he loves to steal my seat. Like, okay, there's one seat that I usually sit in, or that I usually sat in on this couch, right? So after he retires, that becomes his spot. And once it becomes his spot, I'm not sitting there anymore, because he plops down, he literally breaks just about everything he sits on because he sits so hard. And, he doesn't clean up after himself, so there's like trash over there half the time. And now we got the bladder control issues, so it's like, I will not sit there, right? So I've talked about in the past many times, every time I find a new spot, at some point he starts sitting there. It's like without fail, right? So at first it was this one spot on the one couch, and when he started sitting there all the time, I stopped sitting there. And so the next time I went in there, I started sitting on this other couch at the end toward the fireplace. I sat there like 3 or 4 times, and then I go in there, and then he started to sit there. It's like, huh. And then because he sat there, and of course my mom made him start sitting on a towel on the other couch because, he's got this bladder control issues. So he's just peeing everywhere and not cleaning up after himself, which is why he steals other people's spots, is because you're supposed to clean up after him. And if he goes to everywhere that you will sit and makes it a problem for you to sit there, eventually you're going to have to clean up after him, right? I just stopped going in those rooms. The last couple times I watched a movie in there with my mom, we have this other chair. It's like a leather, oversized armchair kind of a thing. And I threw all the blankets off of it, and I sat there. I was like, I know if I forget to put these damn blankets on here, this is where he's going to be sitting next. I even mentioned it to my mom after I pointed out the fact that once she made him start sitting on the towel on the other couch, he moved to sitting on her favorite blanket on the couch that I had been sitting on. And it was just, the blanket was just there. So it wasn't, he put it there special necessarily. It was, he just chose to sit on it. And, then of course, just got to wash it. But yeah, once he figured out that I was sitting in that other seat, then of course when I forgot to put the blankets in there, that was where it was at. It's like, told you. It's like I told you that was going to happen. It's like, if I forget to do this, he's going to be here. And of course, once I put all the stuff back on the seat, he won't move it off. But if it's off, he's going to sit there because I sat there. So it's like a constant thing. And like, his usual spot at the kitchen table is on the end, right? And my spot is like this corner that's kind of between him and my mom's spots. And my spot is more flexible on that end, because like, when Gracie started coming around and then was sitting at the table because she got big enough to sit at the table, that became her spot. And she's autistic, so it's like, we're not arguing with the autistic child over whether she can sit in this spot or not, because she would have a total meltdown if she could not sit in that spot. So it's like, we're flexible on that. You know, I can I can let the small autistic child have the spot and it's fine, right? But, you know, then it's just like, my dad would start coming in from work before he retired and would sit in that spot. And he would make fun of her and, you know, back in her face when she was having a meltdown. It's like this little, like, 4 or 5-year-old kid, and he is acting like that as a grown-ass adult. It's like... And I mentioned the thing, like, when we had the conversation a few weeks ago, or I guess a couple months ago even. The dog has been there like a month now. They were trying to... Okay, my mom gets all friendly and, oh, you need to come in here and sit down and talk with us. It's like, I don't want to. It's like, anytime she does something like that, it's because she wants something from me, right? So, no, I don't want to sit here and talk to you. You know, but I leaned over the back of the chair to let them have their moment or whatever, and my mom's like, do you think Taz would do better with a young puppy, or like a new puppy, or like a slightly older one, like maybe closer to a year or something? It's like, no, we don't need a fucking dog in this house. It's like another dog in this house, right? We already have 4. We don't need it. You're not going to do anything to take care of it. It's going to fall on me. Right? It's like, if it goes out of the absolute bare minimum, feeding them or whatever, if it's out of their usual routine, they're not going to go out of their way to do it. So it's going to fall on me. And my dad at that point was making the comments about, well, you live here, you should have to take care of it. It's like, interesting, because it's not my dog, right? So when he throws out this bullshit with how I'm a pretty good dog wrangler, it's like, this is just because you got your fucking way. You forced me into this situation where I'm taking care of this dog that I didn't want, because I feel sorry for the dog, and I'm not going to let it just continue to get worse because it doesn't know how it fits into the pack, because you assholes won't do anything about it. Every single time I come back in the house with that dog, when she's gone on a walk with us or whatever, I hear, I need to walk, or I need to work with her some, or I need to spend more time doing this or whatever. My dad says, I'm going to work with her later today. And it's like, yeah, I'll fucking believe it when I fucking see it. And I'm not going to see it because you guys don't actually mean to do that. Right? So it's like, I don't know. But just him saying that last night and my mom feeding into it, it's like, that is a big part of the manipulation, right? That is the thing where, you know, you get the pat on the back because you're doing what they want you to do, what they always wanted you to do, and what you didn't want to do, and you kind of didn't have substantial enough boundaries to stand by it because it was a dog, right? Because I can't make that dog suffer because my parents are idiots. I can't. They're assholes, or whatever you want to look at it on this end. And they knew that, right? So that's, that was going back to the situation with my ex before I left. When he randomly shows up with 2 husky puppies and I'm supposed to start taking care of them. Because he knew that I would do something for them. Because I think the first night they stayed out in this dog run in the backyard, but they had worms, and it was just, I had to get them treated for that because, for at least the week, they were going to be in the same space as my dogs, right? So we had to get them treated for that. And I was pissed when they showed up with those. It's like, it was literally for the same exact purpose, because it was something I like dogs better than people, because they don't, you know what you're going to get with a dog, right? A dog is a dog, and the dog is going to dog. And if the dog doesn't know how to dog, other dogs can sometimes help teach the dog to dog. This has been the experience that I've had. I've learned, I think, more about leadership and responsibility from the dogs in my life than I have from the humans in my life. So, so I've had dogs all my life, and I like dogs better because because they're not just trying to suck the life out of me. God damn it. So it's like, and like with the one that's there now, it's like, she's afraid of her own ass. I can help her with that, right? So I will, because of who I am. I will do that for her, not for my parents' lazy asses. They are the prime example of don't deserve a goddamn thing that I will do, but they benefit because I care about animals enough that I can't just let that go. I'm so fucking sick of the manipulation, y'all. And that's what it is. I said I was going to go skate this morning, right? I got my stuff together, got ready. I was putting stuff in my pockets. As I went to walk out the door, my mom says, "Here, you can take this over to Grandma." It's like, no, I'm not going to Grandma's. Ass. It's like, see, that's it. It's like, you say because it's conveniently on the way, we live next door to the woman, I can just take it over there and drop it off, and it's no big deal, right? But if I say that I don't want to, then it's a problem, and we're going to resort to name calling or whatever the fuck else, right? Because that's literally that emotional manipulation that's always been there. And I think I've just seen it more this week again. I think the aggravating thing is I'm able to see it for what it is as it's happening. Whereas, a few years ago, when I was getting it and feeling attacked and didn't know what was going on, it's like, this situation doesn't sit right, but I don't know why. But now it's, you fucking got your way because you forced me into this situation where I have to take care of this dog that I didn't want, that I told you several times I didn't want because I didn't want another project to take care of, and your fucking lazy ass isn't going to do it. And here we are. And so now I get the little pat on the back because they did what they want. So, right? So, yeah, so then when it comes to my grandma's bullshit, no. I've talked a lot about, as far as I'm concerned, my grandmother is the first line of complacency of my grandfather's bad behavior, so for all the abuse that was not only accepted, but at some level encouraged because of their toxicity. And I was the main one in the family that got, the brunt of that, right? I was the scapegoat. I was the one they deemed to be a problem, so that everybody just kind of, if I made the main toxic elements angry or whatever, they could just say whatever they want. And then, okay, say my aunt, let's go with the youngest sister. My mom could complain to her about me or my brother, and, then she would just try to understand, but also have that layer of prodding you to to fall in line and do what you're supposed to do, right? So it's like, yeah, no. And I'm supposed to go to this stupid baby shower today that I don't want to go to, and I might just very well say that I'm not going. There's a really good chance of that, honestly. Maybe I'll put on my Rotting Christ shirt and If my mom says, you need to change, I'll be like, no, I'm not going. This is what I'm wearing today. And if I go to the fucking church that this is at, then yeah, I'm wearing this. I don't know. Because, like, that's the only way I've ever been able to maintain any sort of boundary with them, right? Is if I actively, like, put up a barricade, so to speak. It's like, I don't know, and that's frustrating too. It's like I keep getting these messages that come up about, you know, setting boundaries, but not walls. And it's like, when this is the family situation that I'm in, this is my living environment, it's like, how do I do that without just getting run over the top of even further? You know, and there's this one card that I've pulled a few times. It's this unconditional love card from this cosmic reading deck that I have. And the one thing it says at the end is, sometimes the most unconditionally loving thing you can do is walk away. It's like, fuck. I'm so ready to be done with these people that way. And yet, you know, it's like my biggest struggle at the same time is to, what's the likelihood I can completely disconnect from all of the family and it not be an issue, like, on my end, just because, you know, family's supposed to be important to me. And it's like this ridiculously difficult thing because it's important, and yet at the same time it's like, mine is fucked up. And it's not a good normal. I watched this video today. I don't know the guy's name. Daniel something or other, I think. I'll find him and tag it. But he was talking about why people who have been in narcissistically abusive situations don't like having guests over to their house and all this stuff. It's like the recovery thing. It's like you finally have a safe space to go, and you don't like the chance that somebody's going to bring a sketchy energy into it and all this kind of stuff. It's like, I have had multiple times in the past several years when I was with my ex and, you know, in the situation with my family. It's like, I prefer being home alone. Like, when nobody is there. It's like, that is exactly why. It's because I know that the energies that are coming in are sketchy as fuck and not good to be around. And, you know, like, I always had it arranged where, like, when I could arrange my schedule for work, like in Alabama, I would work when he was home and be at home when he was at work, because that was, you know, basically where I found any kind of peace, right? And I remember thinking that it's like, is this like my ideal situation where, you know, I'm in a connection with somebody and I prefer them to not be in the house? And it's like, I don't think that's going to be the case, like, for forever. But I think there will probably be spans of time where I just need nobody around. Maybe not, because, you know, I know that not everybody is like this. I know that this is not actually a normal way for things to be. Even though it's not uncommon, I think at this point. It's not good, it's not normal by any means. But, you know, it's like that, just like the volatility with my parents, even. And talking down, going the thing with the dog, literally talking down at me about how I should have to step up and take care of their dog. You know, my mom was playing it on the side of, well, you're not going to have to. It's our dog. We're going to do this. And my dad's like, you live here. You should have to take care of it. It's like, huh. But then it's the damnedest thing, because she's sure as shit not doing anything for that dog other than brushing her once in a while. And, you know, her dog is basically neglected on that end too, because, you know, she won't spend any time with her unless she's fucking wanting to brush the crap out of her. You know, she can't just sit there with them. She has no interest in connecting with them at that level, right? And then it's really irritating knowing that the rescue, you know, the lady that brought her out, she had every intention of leaving her there as a foster kind of situation. I think Mom said we were like the 5th place the dog has been at since it left its original space. And she was going on and on about how the lady at the rescue was just, you know, going on about how, you know, she's already come so far in just that short amount of time that we've had with her, and oh, isn't that just wonderful, and I knew this would be a great home for her, and blah blah blah. And now, of course, you know, they paid the money, they got the collar with their phone numbers on it and all that stuff. It's like, she's theirs now, but what are they going to do when I'm not there to keep encouraging that, and when I take my dogs with me when we leave, right? Like, then what? Or what are they going to do? What's that situation going to look like? And for their sake, I kind of hope they fail. For the dog's sake, no, because that's not fair to the dog. But I said over and over again, they don't need this. You know, and this is... Didn't matter what I said, because I fell in line anyway, right? It was like manipulation. It's like I knew exactly what it was going to end up doing, and here I am doing it anyway because I feel bad for the damn dog. I think I don't know. Yesterday when I came in from walking the dogs, you know, my dad starts in on, oh, well, tomorrow when you walk them, I'll go with you. It's like, no, you're not going to go with me. You just had a stroke this past weekend that you wanted to have again because you want people to take care of you. Because you think that we're supposed to be obligated to take care of your dumbass when you don't even care about yourself anymore. And never have, right? It's literally just sucking the life out of everybody else, because that is what this family does. Right? It's like, you don't exist to make anything better for anybody else. You exist to be catered to in your bullshit. But he started spouting off about that, and I was just thinking, nope, not going with me. I was like, because I try to enjoy walking the dogs, right? Because sometimes it gets frustrating, you know, especially sometimes I'm just not not in it to win it. But, you know, sometimes things go wrong. And God knows if he was with us, things would go wrong. And, you know, it's like, before he had the strokes, I didn't like when he went along. Because he's a dude that doesn't take care of himself. He's extremely overweight and doesn't give a shit, right? Like, okay, we went to the quick fix of like the Manjaro or whatever, and, you know, then once he came off of that, you know, for a while, I think now there's just like he's on prednisone for the deal with the brain surgery, which has jacked his sugar up and, you know, made the incontinence issues even worse. But it's like, there's no part of that I want to connect with. There's nothing about that man that I have any interest in spending time with. Because the only thing he wants by spending time with me is access to my energy. And here there. And then, he can shift into having his temper tantrums and doing more dumb shit. And, because he got access to my energy at some degree again, and, he's good to go. Which is basically what happened this week, right? So he has the fucking stroke over the weekend or whatever. And so we end up at the emergency room. And I got stuck. And then it's just kind of been downhill from there, right? On the other hand, I have been making progress in my room. Gotten a bunch of shit cleared out. Thrown a lot of stuff away. Got a lot of stuff ready to donate. And it's like, as I watch the space get more emptied out, it's like, well, shit, now my one chair from my great grandma could go there, except for I still got to fix the cushions, but then I would need to bring back the fucking sewing machine so I can fix the cushions and all this stuff. I still really just want to get the fuck out of that situation now. And I still don't know what the steps to do that are. And I am tired and I am frustrated. This is the biggest thing today. So it's like, I skated, and it's like in the past that's been like extremely helpful. And today it was just like, I don't know. The other day she decides to go to Sam's Club and asks if we need anything. And I threw out a couple things. Like the one thing, like the biggest thing is, if breakfast bowls are easy to have for breakfast, right? And since my dad and I will both eat those, so I mentioned that. She did not get any of those. She got these like sandwich things that I won't eat, which is fine, whatever. She went to the store. I don't even give a shit. But then she makes this big deal about, I thought you might I know you're trying to eat healthy, so I got you, like, she got me like this thing of yogurt that is like Greek yogurt and 0 sugar or something or other. It tastes really weird. I had one the other day. It's like, don't love it. But then she also followed it up with going to Walmart and getting 3 cases of root beer and some ice cream so I could have root beer floats, because I've done that on occasion recently. It's like, so it's like catering to both your urge to try to be healthier and also trying to push you to not be healthier, because if you do the unhealthy stuff and focus on that, that gives the toxic energies access to your energy too, right? And so if you're not eating well and you feel like crap because you're not eating the good stuff that your body wants, then they get access to your energy and they can fucking suck the life out of you that way too, right? So it's like, how do we fuck you over one way or another? That's all we're really interested in doing. I sent my brother a message this morning. We do the, I guess it's the emotionless emoji with the lines for the eyes and the line for the mouth. It's just kind of a, yeah. Apparently it's called the emotionless one, because that's what his Siri or whatever chimes up with anytime he's in the car. But that's kind of just like the code now, right? So I sent him like a couple of those yesterday. Sometimes if it's really animated kind of irritation, I've sent like 6 or better. Just if I'm like that kind of pissed at him, or that kind of stupid bullshit has come up. So like yesterday I'd sent him a couple, and then later in the day he sent me one back. It's like, uh-oh. He lives in Oklahoma, so if it's coming to him too, she's having to track him down on the phone. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, but And that's what she had done. And then, of course, there were a couple more by the end of the day, and he was just like, "Ooh, I think we've set a new record." It's like, there's a chance. And then I sent him one when I got over here today. And he sent me, of course, it's like a call and response. It's the emotionless emoji, and then, whoever has received it sends it back as kind of like a confirmation that I get it. And what happened, and I told him, like, the spiel. I said, I was going skating. I said, I got my stuff together, and I go to leave, and then I hear, "Can you take this stuff over to Grandma's on your way?" And I say, "No, I'm not going to Grandma's." And then she calls me an ass as I'm walking out the door. Of course, I shut the door and then call her a bitch. So, it's just, which, of course, she didn't hear mine, but yeah, like, that wasn't the point of it, really. It was just, and he said, why couldn't she take it over there? It's like, yesterday she spent the whole damn day in her pajamas because she didn't want to do anything and didn't want to talk to her mommy or whatever, And I said, it's because these sisters are all in agreement that Grandma is a miserable human to be around right now, and they don't like going out of their way to have to be around her. So they try to, so my mom is trying to, push that task off on anybody else, right? So she'll have my dad go over there to take stuff. She usually tries to force one of her sisters to do it so she doesn't have to, especially the middle sister that lives next door to Grandma. And yeah. But like, everybody knows that I don't want to go over and visit my grandma. Period. Why? Because she is toxic. But it's like, because they know she is a toxic human and they don't like being around her, they try to, deflect where they can. Right? But it's just like, I've heard them on the phone talking about how mean she is anymore, and it's like, yeah, she would, as far as she's concerned, she was supposed to die before her husband did, because the daughters catered to his fucking lazy ass. They were very steeped in that, enabling his bullshit, but like I said, my grandma's the first line of complacency. She's where that started, and everything else was just downhill from there. So, and like, even seeing in that last year, like, it was like they were having a contest of who got more attention when something happened. So, like, Grandpa falls, and everybody, it's a big fuss, and then Grandma falls, and it's a big fuss, but then my grandpa ended like that. It was like a back and forth for a while. It was literally, one does it, and a few days later, the next one does it. Constantly. And then eventually, my grandfather ends up shattering his femur and having to have surgery. And that was it for that. So he proved that, he was the more loved of the parents in that situation. And, that the daughters would basically bend over backwards for him, and he could bully them into submission. He didn't even have to hit them to do that, right? Because he always said that he could never spank his daughters because he felt like a big bully hitting a little girl. He had no problem being an emotional bully, though, right? Because that's very much his manipulation is exactly what got the daughters to fall in line otherwise. My grandmother would do the beating of the children, and my grandfather would just do the emotional abuse, right? So it's like, and of course my mom and her sisters seem to think that's normal, right? That's just a normal, happy family, right? It's like, but no. No, your fucking illusion is bullshit. And as somebody who was on the ass end of receiving the brunt of the bullshit my entire life, I'm gonna get mouthy about it, and they're not gonna like it. Like, the middle sister knows that I have the YouTube thing, and she knows that I vent. And that's kind of a vlog, but she's never seen anything. And I told her that I'm not going to let her see anything because I don't want her husband having access to it. is the biggest thing. And she gets that, right? She knows that, her husband goes right along and, I'll be whoever I need to be and talking to anybody to, to get my pat on the back and feel like I'm a part of this family too. He talks shit behind your back and all that kind of crap. And it's like, no. See, and that'll be the biggest thing too. He and my aunt share a Facebook page and, all social media that he has access to, which fine, whatever, if you're into that kind of thing, by all means. But what that means is when I leave, I wouldn't have disconnected from her. I will disconnect from him. So since they are in the shared space, she's going to end up getting cut off as well, just because he is a toxic element. I do not want having access to anything that I'm doing. Period. What time is it? I almost want to. Still got to take a shower, and I don't know. Do I want to go to this stupid baby shower? I don't. I really don't. Do I want to be around family? I really don't. Even if it's my dad's side of the family, and usually I like them better than my mom's side of the family. Not really. I don't like my family, y'all. Family sucks. With the exception of a few individuals. I go immediately to the funeral for the one baby that didn't survive, right? And it was just like 3 weeks ago or something. I don't remember. Time all runs together, y'all. But anyway, we go to this funeral, and we went with my aunt and her best friend. Like best friend from school kind of a thing, and they're still super tight, and she's practically one of the family anyway. So we ended up, just me and my parents went with my aunt and her best friend, right? And of course her husband's the one that died it was the first of the the dying season, that he started that off. But we go to the funeral and to the burial, and then decide we're gonna go out to eat. Okay, so we go to this little pizza place that nobody had been to in a long time, and it was interesting because they were trying to think of something that was closer to our house, so to drop us off on the way, and ended up coming up with this town it's like 10 minutes away, so it's not really that far. It's the town that I used to live in with my ex. We had a rental house out there. And I had been thinking about this pizza place for a while. It's like, we haven't been there in a while. We should do that. And I hadn't said anything to anybody about it, but then my aunt and her friend are talking, and we should do lunch. Where do we want to go? And blah, blah, blah. So that, one of them mentions this place, and it's like, thinking it was closer to our house. It's like, we'll go for that. So we ended up going there. While we're there, so I manifested the little outing to the pizza place that I hadn't mentioned to anybody, but we ended up there. But then, while we're there, my mom starts in on her bullshit, right? And going on and on about how my brother and sister-in-law moved her only grandbaby across the country, and it was specifically to get back at her because they didn't like how involved she was when her daddy was trying to die. It's like, I was listening to everything she was saying, and just like, you are full of shit, man. And my aunt's friend is looking at me, trying to pull me in on the, oh, well, that's so sad, and you don't think it's sad that they would take the only grandbaby away, and she's been there she's been around her grandma all her life, and you don't think that's a thing? It's just like, there is a whole lot more to this story than you are getting, and you need to just stop. So it's like, we go out with these people, and it's like, I see my mom shift into the, oh, poor, woe is me kind of bullshit, and it's just like, when she started in on how they were upset because she was so concerned about her daddy when he was dying, I was like, but you're missing the part where you two were literally making asses of yourself while her mom was dying just months before then. It's like, you seem to forget all about that. It's like, you seem to forget having gone off on them for various things while her mom was dying, because she is not part of the family enough to matter, right? But, your daddy's so important that you stop doing anything except being up his ass. It's like, so, but, and my aunt's friend tried to shift it like a couple times to bring me back into feeling sorry for my mom. It's like, it's not going to happen. It's like, there's a lot more to this story than what you are being told. And then, honestly, I'm probably at some point going to let it slip that I'm probably more the reason my brother and his family moved away than my sister-in-law is. Because I was the one that started setting boundaries and then noticing the bullshit that was really going on with the manipulation, and I started pointing it out to my brother, and then he started noticing. And then the more we've had conversations about it, it's like, this is some bullshit, but this is literally emotional manipulation. And this has been the freaking entirety of our lives, right? And then, he had, the work thing come up and ended up in this therapy group. And, when he's talking with the group, he said, I won't say that we've been abused. It's like, dude, I said, it is emotional abuse. It is absolutely manipulation. It's like, it's not going to get better by avoiding calling it what it is. It's like, it sucks that it is the thing that it is. But at the end of the day, we have been emotionally manipulated all of our lives. And while I don't think we are stuck being there forever, there is still a whole lot because of that we have to work through. I said, and until you stop gaslighting yourself on that point, which is what we've been, that's a big part of what we've been raised to do, was gaslight ourselves because they couldn't possibly be that bad, because nobody else seemed to think that what they were doing was that kind of bullshit, right? So it's like, maybe it's us, but it's like, that's all we were doing was gaslighting ourselves because we were trying to make it be normal, right? But it's not normal. And like I said before, just because it is common does not mean it is normal. That is not how it's supposed to be. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up and go walk my dogs, and take a shower, and I don't know if I'm going to the thing or not. There's a part of me that is inclined to go to the thing just so I can call my mom out anytime, I hear her start shifting it to, oh, woe is me, to like other people in the family. That tower moment thing. I have no problem calling attention to some of that now. Now, that said, if she's okay with me not going, so we can be peaceful and she can live her illusion, and pull everybody into her oh woe is me sob story bullshit, like she's not going to just like that's the thing. It's like, whether I'm there or not, if I'm there, I'm going to hear her at some point talk about, my brother and having left and all that shit. That's part of what his thing was yesterday. Well, since you moved my granddaughter away, okay. So my brother's had this thing lately with telling her that he's told her recently that I work harder than anybody in this damn family other than maybe the one uncle that bends over backwards to try to help people, where he can. But it's like, and he said no. I'm gonna bet I say she even works harder than him, honestly. I was like, yeah, but the shit that I'm doing, it's like they have no awareness of, because they just think it's normal to be fucking toxic. And, they don't see it as toxic as long as you're doing your part and keeping them feeling good about, their illusion, and then they can just, stay in their happy spot, right? But since I'm having to process through it and to actually, process it out of my system and transmute this shit, which, yeah, prove that, right? Is a pain in the ass. Because as far as they're concerned, I'm not doing anything. But undoing the damage from being around them my entire life, it's frustrating because prove it, right? Prove it. Actually, when I was skating, I kind of saw myself in this timeline of my mother showing up to bring her chaos into my world when I've locked her out of my world, right? She finds out because I've kind of put myself in a space where anybody could potentially find this video stuff. So at some level, she's able to track down where I'm at, and she comes and is like a total nightmare to try to force her way back into my life and to gain access to my energy again. And, I end up trying to figure out a freaking restraining order to get her to leave me the fuck alone permanently. And then it's like, what do you have to show for that, right? It's like, she's gonna talk about all the things where she bent over backwards for you, and all the ways she went out of her way to make sure you had a good experience and all this stuff, and forget about trying to hijack my fucking drumline thing, or make the fucking contest win my bear picture a bad thing, and like all that stuff. It's like, what do I have? I have fucking almost 300 videos, largely talking about my toxic ass family. But even then, it's like, those aren't labeled as such. It's like, so if I know that I've talked about all these stories multiple times on here, but as far as finding a specific video, like the only specific videos, okay, there's a couple that I remember. One of them was on my parents' anniversary. And that was the day that my dad called me a dumb bitch when I was first starting out with the damn YouTube thing, right? So that was like within the first like 3 videos that I did, right? So that one I can find pretty easy. And then also, and this one has nothing to do with them. The other one that I remember is that it was video 123 on January 4th. And I remember because 123 on the 4th. And that was just, the declaration of being ready for a different life, right? For the twin flame stuff to, work out however it's supposed to work out. I'm ready to get to wherever I'm meant to be going, which means I had to lean into a lot more of this stuff than I was otherwise open to talking about, like the twin flame stuff. I mean, that's one of those things that most people are going to be like, Okay, nut job. So based on what? So you have this idea based on some things that may or may not be true, right? On how I've been led on this journey. Which that was actually something that I was kind of processing through last night. And I spent some time journaling about it too. It's like, there are things that I have been confident about on this journey, the whole, like, with the twin flame connection and whatnot. And then there are other things, it's like, I have no way of knowing that for sure. And what would that change if it's not true? Right? I've been wrong before. That's not the problem, but it's like, what would it mean if I was wrong about these details? It's like, does that change everything? It's like, I don't feel like it really does, because those were still, like, things that contributed to my being able to keep moving forward. So, like, on that end, does it have to be completely right for it to be relevant enough to keep you moving, right? But then, what if it's wrong? Then does that render everything wrong? It's like, I can't feel like everything's wrong, even if maybe not everything's been, like, completely accurate necessarily. It's like, does it change everything? I don't know. I don't know. Because at the end of the day, I still couldn't have gotten to this point in this journey without the belief in it. And, it's been, like, the one thing that's been ongoing as far as the thing that keeps pushing me to keep going forward even when I don't want to go. Right? So, like, in all the ways everything's gone to shit, having something beyond me that's kind of been pulling me along, even when I would have otherwise just completely shut down, right? So it's like, I don't know. But I guess for now I can't lose myself to the idea of it all being wrong, because I know that it's still been the thing that's kept me moving. And so what if not everything's 100%? What was the bigger purpose that it served? Right? So, I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I read something a little bit ago that was talking about there's supposed to be a full lunar eclipse tomorrow. I don't know where full at, but I read something about it, and it was talking about highlighting areas you still have things to release and let go of. So it's like, I guess that would make sense for where I'm at right now. I don't know. But I'm gonna wrap it up. And go figure out what I'm doing. Whether I'm going to this stupid thing and being a bitch to my mom when she, trying to pull people into feeling sorry for her and calling her out on her bad behavior. Or if I can get out of it somehow. I'm gonna go. So, as always, I appreciate you. Till the next time. See you.